The energy industry is up against a challenge it just can't solve with human minds alone. We're talking about a flood of data so huge it's becoming unmanageable. So today, we're going to dive into Senergy, a company that's using artificial intelligence to turn this data crisis into a massive opportunity. Let's see how they're pulling it off.
Okay, so to really get what Senergy is doing, you've got to understand the problem they're solving first. The energy industry, it's going through this huge transformation, and what's driving it? An absolutely overwhelming tidal wave of data.
So, is the industry really drowning in data? The short answer, yup, absolutely. The sheer amount of information pouring in from everywhere, from deep Earth exploration to thousands of daily sensors, it's just growing at a mind-boggling rate.
And look, we're not talking about gigabytes or even terabytes anymore. We are talking about petabytes. To give you an idea of what that means, one single petabyte is like 20 million of those 4-drawer filing cabinets, all stuffed with text. Now just imagine your job is to find one specific piece of paper in all of that. That's pretty much the challenge human analysts are up against every single day.
And that right there, that's the heart of the problem. The tried and true methods, the traditional machinery of the industry, even the incredible power of the human brain, they're all being pushed to their absolute limits. This isn't just about needing a little upgrade. For a lot of folks in this field, it's becoming a matter of survival.
So if the old ways just aren't cutting it anymore, what's the answer? Well, this is where a new kind of tech comes into the picture, AI agents. And it's so important to think of them not just as simple tools, but really as a new kind of collaborator.
All right, so what in the world is an AI agent anyway? Well, think of it like this. Normal software, it just follows a strict list of instructions you give it. An AI agent, on the other hand, can actually perceive its environment, process what it's seeing, make a decision, and then act on it, all by itself. It learns, it adapts, and that is the real game changer here.
So how does it work? It's basically a 4-step process. First up is perception. That's where the agent is just gathering data from every possible source. Then comes reasoning. This is where it's sifting through all that data, looking for patterns that a human might totally miss. Based on those patterns, it moves to step 3, decision-making, where it picks the best course of action. And finally, action. It actually does something, whether that's flagging an issue for an engineer or maybe even adjusting a piece of equipment in real time.
And this, right here, is probably the most important point of all. The goal isn't to replace human experts, not at all. It's to augment their abilities, to give them superpowers, really. By letting the AI handle all the heavy lifting, all that brute force data analysis, it frees up our geoscientists and engineers to do what they do best: innovate, strategize, and solve the really tricky problems. It's a true partnership.
Which, of course, brings us right back to Senergy. See, they're one of the companies that really got this potential super early on. They've been mastering how to build and deploy these AI agents specifically for the unique challenges of the energy sector. So, Senergy's mission, it's all about building sustainable solutions, and not just in energy. They're looking at the big picture, the interconnected worlds of water and even health. But what's the common thread tying all these super complex fields together? You guessed it, artificial intelligence. AI's the engine at the very heart of their entire operation. And they've actually organized their whole approach into this really neat framework they call GREEN. It covers everything from global oil and gas to renewables and even emerging medical tech. But that last piece, the N for next-gen AI and digitalization, that isn't just another service on the list. No, it's the foundational gear that makes everything else turn.
Okay, so that's all the theory, right? Sounds good on paper. But the real question is, does this stuff actually work out there in the real world? Let's move past the talk and look at some tangible proof.
And honestly, this is what I think really sets Senergy apart. Long before AI was the buzzword on everyone's lips, their experts were already in the trenches, using data analytics and smart algorithms to solve these incredibly tough problems. They were way ahead of the curve, and they've got the results to prove it.
Let's take a look at 2 of their big projects in Malaysia, and these are both documented in official industry papers, so this is the real deal. In one case, their AI found new development opportunities that everyone else had completely missed. And in another, they were handed a reservoir that was so complex that literally every traditional modeling method had failed. Senergy's AI approach, it's the one that finally cracked the code.
And the impact? I mean, it was just staggering. That first project we mentioned, it alone identified a potential reserve of over 300 million stock tank barrels of oil. Now, that's a standard industry measure, but let me tell you, that represents a massive amount of newly discovered value, all thanks to putting this innovative AI to work.
To really put that into perspective, think about that complex offshore field.
We're talking about nearly 200 wells and more than 60 different reservoir layers. I mean, what a tangled mess for the traditional methods. But Senergy's AI, it successfully built a working model of the entire system and saved a ton of time and resources in the process. It's just a perfect example of this technology in action.
So yeah, the evidence is pretty compelling, right? The final question then becomes, how does this kind of innovation actually make its way into the industry? Let's take a look at the different ways Senergy helps other organizations tap into this power. Well, they offer a whole range of ways to work with them. You can bring them in for expert consulting, or you could commission a totally custom-built AI solution that's tailored to your exact problem. You can even get their strategic guidance on your entire digital transformation journey. The point is, there's a path forward for any organization, no matter where they are on their AI journey.
But it's not just about solving today's problems. They're also actively building the future. They've created something called the Senergy Technology Hub, which is basically an ecosystem designed to nurture new technologies, like their AI agents, and guide them from just a promising idea all the way to a successful launch in the market.
And this hub has a really clear three-step path to get things to market. It all starts with rigorous validation, making sure the tech is actually viable. Then comes branding, which is all about shaping its story and value. And finally, commercialization. That's where they build partnerships and bring in investment to get the innovation out into the world. It's a really smart pipeline for turning great ideas into real-world impact.
Which kind of brings us to our final thought here. Senergy has proven they can solve the tough problems of today while also building the tools for tomorrow. And the question they're posing to the entire industry, it's a really powerful one. Are you ready to co-create the future of energy and geoscience?
So, if that question resonates with you, or hey, if you're just curious to see how AI is fundamentally reshaping one of the world's most critical industries, you can learn a whole lot more at senergyltd.uk. Thanks for tuning in.